Welcome to Lazio Lounge. Sit down, maybe take something to drink because this one is going to be a very long episode. Alistair McKenzie, we have so many things to talk about. We nearly forgot about the fixture, right? We have to talk about the signing, about the Inzaghi press conference, about the last friendly match played in Oronzo, and obviously about the fixture, and reply to all the questions that our friends already asked us on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of those, haven't there? Which goes to show that it's actually been a very eventful week, and in a good way. It's almost everything that's happened this week has been very positive. So I think, considering the frustration we've had in recent episodes with the lack of activity and things going on, it's been probably the most exciting week of the summer so far.
Yeah, today it's probably the first day in the last week that Lazio didn't do something. So, it was bizarre. We had a day where Lazio signed two players. I don't remember last time it happened. I don't know, Alistair, if you had any idea.
I can't think of, yeah, I mean, and not just two signings, but high profile, really good, exciting signings as well. And I think the Badelj one, I mean, obviously Correa we'd heard a lot about, and there had been a bit of kind of momentum building towards that signing. But with Badelj, I mean, this is a guy who's been named now and then in the reports, but it didn't seem like it was really on the verge of happening until it happened, basically. And, if anything, for me, that's the even more exciting of the two signings. I am so encouraged by that. I think it's an absolutely fantastic addition to the squad. Really lifts the quality we have available in that midfield. And initially, I think we all thought that at best we would get a kind of backup to Lucas Leiva, but in Badelj we've got a lot more than that.
And there's something, before we start talking deeply about everything, that a little bit surprised me, and on the other side is typical of this Lotito Lazio age. There has been no official announcement, but in the press conference, Inzaghi talked about Badelj and Correa. So, there's nothing more official than the manager talking about both. But still, if you look to the Lazio official account, there's nothing there. But Inzaghi already talked about them. So they're coming. They should be having the medicals on Tuesday. Tomorrow, if for the people that are listening at us live, is going to be Casares and Milinkovic-Savic to Padella, and on Tuesday instead it's going to be Correa and Badelj.
Yeah, and well, what a difference that makes. I mean, the thing is, everything from Oronzo has been more or less very encouraging. They've trained really well. Inzaghi's sounding very satisfied with how it went. And the friendly matches all went very well as well. And then now, as soon as we're back, basically, before heading to Germany, we get these four players added to the squad, which is, if anything, again, highlights the need for players to be sold as well. But, I mean, it's Milinkovic-Savic actually being back with the squad. I think everyone will be very, very happy to see that. We spoke last weekend a bit about how he's appearing a lot less likely to leave than he did at one point. So I think once we see him back in the Lazio shirt again, I think that'll be a very nice sight for most people.
Yes. From where do you want to start? The two signings, Inzaghi quotes, or the friendly match?
I don't know. I'll leave it in your hands.
Okay, let's talk about the two signing. You said it a little bit, but it's nice to see Lazio getting players that Lazio needed. Correa is replacing Felipe Anderson, while Badelj, it's finally the Vice Lucas Leiva that we were hoping to have last year and we didn't, and finally we have. We have a player that has Serie A experience, that was captain of Fiorentina. It's a very good player who show his talent even in the World Cup. I mean, calling him a sub, it's a little bit diminishing his talent. Obviously, No one think he's gonna play instead of Lucas Leiva. But, and this I'm gonna attach a little bit to what Ferris said on Friday. There's this idea, and it's gonna be tested when they'll come to start training with Lazio, that Lazio will change this tactic this year and play with a 3-4-2-1. And part of this is because Ferry said that analyzing last season, it looks like Lazio, one of the reasons why Lazio allowed so many goals was because the midfield, especially when Milinkovic-Savic was pushing, was giving too much space to the other team, and it wasn't easy for Parolo and Leiva to defend that zone that Milinkovic left open. So with Badelj, we're going to have two defensive midfielder that's going to defend better the Lazio defense.
Yeah, that was a really interesting press conference with Faris. Actually, he was. I was kind of surprised by how open he was about all of this stuff. But I think that sounds like a really sensible move. If it gives the defense more protection to have two players in front of them, and also, perhaps even more importantly, I think it makes the most of Milinkovic-Savic's abilities. I mean, I think making him do the kind of box-to-box thing can restrict what he's best at, which is having the ball at his feet, being a focal point for attacks, and being, a creator and a goal scorer as well. I mean, his attacking abilities are his strongest asset, really. So I think pushing him up alongside Alberto, closer to the striker, it seems sensible, and it could be the right balance. We've spoken a lot about possibility of tactical shifts, and like we were saying, I think last week or the week before, there haven't been many signs at Alonso that Inzaghi's going to be willing to do that until now. So it is interesting to hear them talking about this possible tactical shift, and on paper I can see it being a very exciting and well-functioning unit to have that system in place.
Yes, and on the other side, this would mean that I see less space for Marco Parolo, because he can do that job, but he's more, as we said often, box-to-box player. So, and I understand better the signing of Berisha that can play in that position. So it's interesting because you can see that how they studied last season, how they saw that where the weaknesses was, and how to unleash Milinkovic-Savic. As I always says, Milinkovic-Savic get more dangerous as more close he is to the opponent box. I think he can play like trequartista as well, better than in Lucas Leiva position. So that's going to be interesting. And the other interesting thing that Faris said is that a big part of the Lazio goal was through cross, and he said that they're gonna work a lot with the wingers to defend better, because if they don't allow the cross, then obviously it's gonna be less easy to the other teams to score. And they said that the problem they had was that Marusic was injured, so they weren't able to practice that part of things. So they're gonna do it now in Germany. But that's interesting because it's good when the manager find the reason why Lazio had so many problems last year.
Yeah, I mean it's very obvious as a problem, though, isn't it? It would be more worrying for them not to be accepting that, or not to be looking at it in any great detail. So hopefully defensively that can get sorted out. I think Badelj, though, as a player, he's more than a Lucas alternative. I think he's a good passer of the ball as well. He's got decent vision and is capable of moving the ball in a creative sense. So I think that playing him alongside Lucas wouldn't necessarily just be a case of having two kind of destroyer players in the middle of the pitch. I think Lucas last season with his performances also proved that he's got a lot more to his game than simply being a ball winner as well, and scored a fair few important goals and had an impact at both ends of the pitch. So
I,
Wait, sorry,
Yeah,
go.
I totally agree with you. I mean, we're talking about two complete players. Obviously, when we think about Lucas Leiva, especially remembering what he did with Liverpool, he was more defensive midfield. But already last season, especially in the second part of the season, he showed to be even a very good playmaker. And Badel is exactly, I don't want to say the copy, but the same type of player. You know, he's very good in defending, but at the same way, he's a good playmaker. So Lazio get two midfielders that will be able to help the defense, but at the same time to help the attack. So that's I think the idea they have in plan. And Berisha, I think it's the same type of player, one that is very good doing both the defense and the attacking phase. So I think that's the project of Inzaghi and Farris. Farris, just for people who are not aware, he's more the tactician of Inzaghi team. So it's him that prepares the tactics for the matches with Simone Inzaghi.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting as well, though, that how open Inzaghi was about Gomez being his first choice. You know, I mean, that's something that we kind of already knew, but to hear him actually come out and say it is quite interesting. I don't know if that points at him being a bit frustrated that they've not managed to get hold of Gomez, but yeah, I mean, in Correa, you know, if it is a 3-4-2-1 formation, for example, and you've got Correa who is competing with Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic, and Berisha can play up there, and then in that midfield you talk about Marco Parolo possibly having a few problems getting into that team. You've got the likes of Morja Cataldi at the moment as well, so suddenly, just by bringing in these two players with real first team ambitions of being regulars in that first team, the squad just looks so much healthier. I mean, it's amazing what difference two players can make, but I think just all around the pitch, it seems like competition for places is a lot higher. I mean, still there's the question of the striker, the second striker, and still I would say there's a bit of weakness and depth on the right hand side of midfield. But other than that, it's looking pretty good.
Yes, and one thing very interesting from the press conference about Correa was that, as you were saying, Inzaghi said that he asked Gomez, but then after talking with Iglitare and Lotito, I presume, he was satisfied with Correa. Now, one thing that came out in the last weeks was that Gomez is really a winger. He hardly plays in the central position. So if Lazio keep playing with this tactics, I was struggling to see Gomez perform like he was doing with Atalanta and Catania, playing in a central position, while Correa have already played in that position in Serie A. So I think it fits more that position than Gomez, and it's much younger than him. So I think that's the perfect solution. And to reply to one of the questions we had today, I think Gomez is not anymore a player in Lazio list. I know there have been some rumors that Lazio was going to sign even Gomez, but at the moment I don't see it happening. One, because Lazio filled the gap, and I think Pedro Neto would be eventually the third choice there. And the other one is because what Lazio's needing is a Vice Immobile, and Gomez is not that type of player. So I don't think Gomez will ever come to Lazio, even if Atalanta doesn't qualify for the Europa League.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It seems like from the tone of those press conferences anyway, it does seem like that ship has sailed. The one thing that did worry me more was today. Wesley has played in a friendly for Club Brugge today and was interviewed afterwards and said that he's staying at Brugge and he wants to play in the Champions League. So it seems like that deal has been put on hold for too long and is no longer going to be happening. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Lucas Perez as well. But, you know, the first part of pre-season is over now. The difficult part, if you like, is about to take place in Germany, and obviously the game against Arsenal and Sweden. And we're still having this question. And I think one of the questions we got earlier was how would we rate the transfer market so far. And I think that's actually not as easy a question to answer as you might first think, because on the one hand, Correa and Badelj coming in and the rest of the signings that have really strengthened the depth of this squad have been really, really impressive. But, there is definitely still an argument that, on the other hand, the one position that clearly from day one needed strengthened, well, the two positions that clearly from day one had to be filled were at centre-back to replace De Vrij and as a striker to come in and back up to Immobile. So we still don't have one of those two players. So I think until that happens, it's quite hard to say, categorically that every box has been ticked and it's been a great success.
But yesterday was the first day of the Belgium league, so he scored a hat-trick in the first day of the season. Well, after what Inzaghi said yesterday, I think the discussion is over. He said he's happy with Caicedo, and Caicedo will be the Vice Immobile. I don't think, as honest he was with talking about Badelj and Correa, I don't think he was lying on Caicedo. So I really think that Caicedo will be the replacement of Immobile. Now, I won't go back and change my valuation of the player. I think he's not at the same level of Ciro Immobile. I hope he's going to prove me wrong this season, but I think it's not. But what Inzaghi said yesterday, for me, it's a very important signal. I hope Rossi, who scored even yesterday, is going to stay as third option and maybe do like Ramos did last year and, take advantage of the chances and prove that he's better than Caicedo and maybe prove everybody that he's a real talent. But yeah, that's the biggest problem we're facing now if Caicedo stays.
Yeah. I mean, it really is as well. I mean, it might sound a bit dull for us to continuously be going on about it, but imagine the worst case scenario does happen and Immobile picks up a serious injury as soon as the season starts. I mean, if you are left in a situation where you've got an untested youth player, no matter how much promise he's showing, that is what he remains. It's an untested youth player and a guy who's spent a season really struggling to actually make an impact in the league. Caicedo, he does have qualities, he does have things he can bring to the team, but being a 20, 25 goal a season striker is not one of those things, and it never has been throughout his career. He's a striker who's struggled to score goals almost everywhere he's been. So that's not what's going to happen. And if there is a problem with Ciro, it's going to put so much more pressure on the guys in midfield to be providing the goals. Also, I have to mention at this point as well, Caicedo's goal against Spal. I mean, that was just the most Caicedo goal I've ever seen.
It reminded me a little bit about the goal he scored against Sampdoria. Do you remember a little bit?
Yeah. It's dramatic weight. Well, for anyone who hasn't seen it, he's kind of, I think he's about 6 yards from goal and sticks out a leg and, well, he misses. Well, the goalkeeper saves his shot, but then it bounces back off Caicedo and goes in. So,
and pretty much Minala does everything, right? Because he gets the ball, he turns around, start to kick, but then lose it, and Caicedo comes in.
Yeah. Quite something.
Yeah, well, Inzaghi said last year he only missed 2 chances against Crotone, but yeah, it was fundamental. So we're gonna see if Inzaghi is right or maybe he was cheating to hide the truth that Lazio is seeking for another player. Even though rumors are that Caicedo already received a couple of offers and Lazio didn't accept it. Now we don't know if Lazio didn't accept it because wanted more money or because they rate Caicedo so high that they want to keep him. We're going to see. But coming back to rating the transfer market of Lazio, I don't know, Alistair. 8 out of 10 at the moment?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that because, like I said, the strength and depth has gone up, and by bringing in the likes of Badelj, it's a much better signing than I was expecting. Berisha looks like a really good signing, as does Dermisi. Proto, it looks like he could genuinely, compete with Strakosha for the goalkeeping shirt, which is useful to have. So I think, all in all, it's been very good, but I couldn't really go higher than 8, give it a 9 or a 10, simply because we still have this problem with no striker to back up Tiro.
Yes, we have to see if really a striker comes. That will obviously, and if Milinkovic stays, obviously. But I'm not convinced anymore that Lazio is going to buy a Visca Immobile at this moment. So we're going to see. But you pointed out Proto. Strakosha is still injured. Last season would have been a nightmare for us. Instead, Proto, he showed that he could be a starter in a elite club like Lazio. And if he wasn't so old and Strakosha so young, I think he could start the season as a starter because he has experience. He's good. He's a leader. So I think that's gonna be a really good signing for Lazio. And as well, Durmisi, if you go and see all the friendly matches Lazio played this summer, it's true that Olispal was a tough opponent, but every time he's or doing an assist or every time the dangerous action starts from his side. So he really looks an interesting player. I don't know how good he is at defending, but when it's time to attack, he's really dangerous.
Well, that was something Faris pointed out as well, though, wasn't he? He mentioned Dermisi by name, saying he's not really sure yet how good he is defensively. So it might be, it could end up being a similar one to Maricic. When he first arrived, he was more or less a winger, and he was impressing us in pre-season with quite good attacking displays from right wing back, but his attacking instincts got reined in a bit over the season, and he became more defensively responsible and really improved that side of his game. So I think Maricic is maybe quite a good a role model in a way for Dermisi to be able to adapt from. If he's more naturally an attacking player, he at least has someone else in the squad who is in a similar position just a year ago and can give him advice on how he managed to, adapt his game and be more defensively astute.
Yeah, let's hope so. Even though Durmisi has probably a bigger experience, he comes from a Spanish league, Betis that was fighting for the Europe League spot, so he has a little bit more international experience than Marusic. He's different from him. He's more speedy, fast, and good ball skill. I'm really interested to see him play. My concern is that yesterday that Lazio tested let's call it the starting 11 without Milinkovic-Savic. He was on the bench, and pretty much the team yesterday was the same of last year with Proto instead of Strakosha, and that's it. So I don't know if this just to give more time to the new players to settle, or Inzaghi wants to start with the old players.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just a case of sticking with what you would regard as being reliable players to begin with. I don't think. I mean, we'll get onto the fixtures, but considering the ridiculous start to the season we've been handed at home to Napoli, away to Juventus in the first 2 weeks, I can't imagine that Inzaghi's going to be taking too many risks with those games, and I think we will see a pretty similar team to what lined up at the end of last season, and he'll look to his more experienced guys for those games. I would have thought, I mean, I might be proved wrong about that, but I would have thought that he'd be more cautious considering the opposition, and then perhaps give the chances to the guys once we're past that first hurdle.
I would agree with you, but Leiva and Lulic cannot play the first match. They receive the red card against Inter, so it was a good chance to try Durmisi there. So that's why I was a little bit surprised about the Inzaghi decision. But let's not forget, there are a lot of friendly match coming on. There's the 4th of August, there's Lazio Arsenal, who's going to be a very interesting match to test Lazio at a good level, and I'm going to be interesting to see who's going to start that match and how long they're going to play. But yeah, I thought yesterday was a good test to see Lazio condition, which was good. I think that Luis Alberto and Ciro Immobile came later. They had a little bit of injury, so they didn't train all the period with the first team. So they are a little bit behind physically, but I thought they were in good condition.
Yeah. Well, Immobile has been looking great. I mean, his goals in the last 2 games have been absolutely phenomenal. So it doesn't look like he's lost any of that sharpness over the summer, which is always encouraging to see. And the other thing is, I mean, you always have to take these games with a pinch of salt because, like you mentioned, Spal have been the only really testing team, I suppose, there. But to have not conceded a single goal in 4 games, I mean, it doesn't really matter who you're playing. I think that's still pretty impressive and a very positive thing considering defensively we've, to put it lightly, not exactly been convincing in recent times. But just going back to that point, I keep forgetting about that because the suspension's running over into the new season that Lulic and Lucas aren't going to be available, and that would be an issue at the best of times. But now that we've been handed Napoli as our opening game, that's looking even more of a problem than it would have been normally.
Yeah, and you were talking about the defense, and this brings me up the last 2 things I wanted to talk about: the Faris and Simone Inzaghi press conference. They both pointed out Wallace. They said that Wallace started very well last season, then he got injured and struggled to get back. They both said that Wallace is a very important part of the defense. He's very good with the feet. He can give more option to Lazio defense. And Inzaghi said that they're going to insist with Radu, Acerbi, Wallace. That's what he considers at the moment the starting trio of the defense, which I know a lot of our listener doesn't trust that much Wallace, but Inzaghi and Faris trust him that much to insist on him. I don't know, I'm a little bit scared. It's true that he started very well last season, but after the injured he really struggled to come back to his top form. So I don't know. He started well again this season, but as you were saying, Oli Spal was a real test. So I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned.
Well, I think Wallace is someone who concerns most fans, to be honest. I think we've had a few kind of questions about Wallace as well and Bastos, because there was a kind of consensus at the end of the season that those 2 players are probably on the way out of the club, having really lost the faith of Inzaghi by the end of the season. Luis Felipe, Cáceres, both ahead of them in the pecking order. So it is interesting to see that they do appear to be getting another chance. Is it the right decision? I'm not convinced, because I think now that we've seen at least 2 years of them, and the problems are persisting. Yes, there have been injury problems for Wallace, but and there have also been some good games for both of those players. It's worth remembering that they have both had some excellent performances in their time at Lazio. It's just that the high-profile errors that they make are just so destructive, really, and can turn a game on its head and can really lose you points over the course of a league season. And reliability is really what we need in that defence at the moment. And I'm not totally convinced that kind of trait is something that can be coached out of a player very easily. And like I said, it's been about 2 years, and both of those players have made big mistakes in that time. I mean, I was in the stadium last December when Wallace did his step over in the Rome derby and basically lost us that game. And, you know, fans don't forget those kind of mistakes. So the other thing is that if Wallace does turn things around, his head's in the right place, and he begins the season as a starter, how long is he going to have the patience of the fans for, is the other question. Because the first big error he makes, everyone's going to assume he's back to the same old problems. So it does worry me a bit.
Yeah, and the other thing interesting is, as we all saw last season, Ramos was quite impressive, but this summer he's been playing only in the Acerbi position, so as substitution of Acerbi. And so Inzaghi have been asked, what about Ramos? And he said that Ramos is the only player he has that can play in all three positions in the defense, and at the moment he's testing as central defender because he's one of the only one that can play there. But I would love to see more Ramos there, and I want to know what's happening when Cáceres come back. After the World Cup he had, I think Cáceres can have a chance to start, or to put in discussion the starting 11 at the moment, because I think fans would be happy to see Cáceres starting instead of Wallace, even though Wallace had a couple of good matches, but it's the continuity that was a little bit concerning.
Well, there's a question I've just seen on Twitter about Cáceres actually. It was from Mickey Baroni, and he said, "Why are we so confident that Cáceres can play in back three? He played as a right back in the World Cup with the best centre back partnership in world football at the moment. It's great we're making signings, but we really need defenders." I mean, he does make a good point. I mean, everyone was very encouraged by Cáceres' performances at the World Cup, but he does make a good point that he was playing in a different role and alongside much, much better centre backs than he'll be playing alongside at Lazio. I think in terms of being confident about him playing in a back three, though, it's really because he has been for half a season at Lazio, and it took him a while to get into the team, and he had some good games, some not so good games, but I think he does have, he's got a reputation for being an enormously versatile player, which has always been a great asset for him. And I don't think that the change from right back in a back four to right-sided centre back in a three is a big one for a player like him, who's proven over the years he's so adaptable. And I think towards the end of last season, we were starting to see some really encouraging signs from him. I think he's a good option. I mean, I don't disagree that it would be nice to have another defender come in of really high quality, but from what we've got, I would regard Cáceres as being one of our best options in that role.
So you're saying that Godin is better than Radu?
Sorry?
You said that Godin is better than Radu?
I think I probably would, just about, yeah.
Unbelievable. Anyway,
so unfaithful.
Yeah. Anyway, Cáceres played even in the three-man defense at Verona and Juventus. It's true that with Juventus he played even in the Durmisi position, left winger, in the five midfielder. I think he can play in different positions. He has the experience to play in the three central defenders, especially on the left side. So we're gonna see, but it's good to have that option, I think. And I saw Filippini playing there. It didn't convince me. I don't think he's staying. But, at the end of the day, Lazio have 6 defenders. I think there's still a gap from the starting to the others. But globally, as you were saying, I think at the moment what's really missing is a right winger and the final call on Immobile replacement.
Yeah, although, I mean, it really doesn't, I mean, tell me if you disagree, but it really doesn't sound like we are going to be getting a right winger in anytime soon. There hasn't really been any noises made about strengthening that part of the squad.
I think Lombardi could be the option there. And I have to be honest with you, look in the first half of the match Saturday, you could see that, Spal wasn't afraid of Basta every time he was pushing. And especially when you play a 3-5-1-1, or how you want to call it, the wingers are fundamental to put pressure on the defense. And Lulic on the left side can be dangerous. I don't see Basta anymore being very dangerous. He's careful, so he give extra coverage to the defense on that side. But I think you have to look for something better if you want to compete for the Champions League. And Marusic can do that, can play there and be that threat. I don't see Basta anymore, but I think you have to sell Basta before buying someone else. Even because, remember, there is that discussion of the 25 players. Already like this, there are something like 8 players that are at our own, so that won't be able to make the squad. So, buying someone else, it would be nearly useless, because this will mean that you will have to find a place for other 10 players. So it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many players still that need to be moved on. I mean, the 25-man squad, you've mentioned it again now, and we're bringing in players and not really getting rid of them. So I think it was La Repubblica. There was a report about the players who are likely to leave Lazio because of the limits to the squad, and the list is enormous. I mean, I think, there's obvious ones in there like, Vargic, Ravel Morrison, Kishna, Economidis, these guys we've talked about before. But interestingly, Lombardi was one of the names who was on that list as well. And I think if you've got Basta, Lombardi and Marusic as your 3 options on the right, that sounds good. But at the same time, Lombardi can't really fill any other roles in this squad. I think that's something that works against him here, whereas a player like Patrick, for example, can play in the back 3 as well as playing on the left or the right of that midfield. So although I think it would be a shame to lose Lombardi, you can kind of see, given the limits of the squad, why that could possibly happen.
Yeah, to be true, on that article they were saying that the 4 players coming from the Primavera was Stracoscia, Guerrieri, Cataldi, and I don't remember the 4th one.
Murcia?
Murcia, yeah. I don't know. As we said, this is a friendly match, etc., etc. But I saw Minala much better than Cataldi, to be honest. So if I was to make the decision, I would have kept Minala, who could fill that spot instead of Cataldi. So I was a little bit surprised to see Cataldi there and not Minala.
Well, I suppose, again, it just comes down to what's, how can we really rate Minala so far? He's had an impressive pre-season, but again, against limited opposition. And I think the real test might be to pitch him into a gate. The next 2 friendly matches, we're playing Arsenal and Dortmund, so the caliber of opposition is suddenly raised enormously. And I think pitching Minala into that situation, you get a much better idea of where he's at than you will do against Triestina or Alonso. Whereas Cataldi, even if Cataldi's not been overly impressive so far, you do know he's a player with a lot of Serie A experience, with international experience with Italy under 21s and so on, and he's capable of playing at that level, even if he's not consistently doing it.
Yes, but Spal is a Serie A team, and Minala played very well when he came in. So, it's true that it was just the end of the match, but I thought it was another good signing. Anyway, we're gonna see what happened. I don't believe that list is decided yet. I think there's gonna be some decision making before Inzaghi give the final list. So we're gonna see. And there's even the Lukaku thing, because Lukaku is back. It looks like he wasn't there because he was trying to solve his problem with his knee. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Again, Lukaku could be a good option for the left side of the midfield, We saw him put his potential. Obviously, he's always injured. He has been often injured. So I don't know if Inzaghi and Lazio want to wait and see how Lukaku recovers and start playing. But it's still an option there. It's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen with him.
Yeah, definitely, because he's got Dermisi coming in to compete, and he's got Lulic, the club captain, in that position as well. So again, you would have thought that that three options, given the limited size of the squad, 3 options in the left wing is quite a lot. And if one of them was to go, it probably would be Lukaku, because Dermisi's obviously just come in and Lulic is the captain. But the other thing is obviously that Lulic can do more than simply play on the left-hand side, and Inzaghi started to use him a lot more in the centre last season. So, I think the more adaptable, the better for Inzaghi's system, really, when it comes to the player choice. And that, again, doesn't really help Lukaku, because he's not really a player who can do anything other than play in that one role.
Yes, we have to see if Lulic switch to the central position more often this season instead of sticking on the left side. I don't know, maybe we're going to see it more often if Lazio really switch to the 3-4-2-1 tactics. But the other point I wanted to make about the Simone Inzaghi conference is what he said about Milinkovic-Savic. When obviously manager has to, say things that maybe they are not thinking, but how Simone spoke about Milinkovic-Savic gave me the impression that he knows that Milinkovic wants to stay, and that he's looking really forward to go back to Lazio. He said that he wanted to come to Oronzo on Thursday, but he said it's too late. Come next Monday when we are back to Rome. But I don't know if I'm too optimistic, but I feel like really if something incredible happens, I think Milinkovic-Savic is going to stay.
Yeah, all the signs are pointing towards that, and there doesn't seem any unrest on his part, which is the most encouraging thing. I suppose that would be what would really throw this up in the air again, is if he was publicly going to make some sort of sign of discontent, or his agent was. But that point has never arrived. That's worth always remembering. No matter how many rumours you read about Milinkovic-Savic, he's never come across as being someone who actively wants to leave the club. The club are obviously desperate to keep hold of him, and as it stands, sorry, I dropped something. As it stands, if an English club was to make a bid, whether that would be United or Chelsea, they've only got about 10 days to do it, so I can't really see that happening. And the Real Madrid question is still open, but doesn't really seem to have got any further than it had at the start of the summer. So yeah, you want to be very cautious about this, because I don't want to get too excited about the prospect of him staying until we know it's definitely happening, but the signs are very positive.
Yeah, and the fact that he has been in touch with Simone Inzaghi, it's a positive signing. Then, to be honest with you, we have to see what happens next week. If he doesn't show up to the medicals, then okay, you got it completely wrong. But if he does and start training with Lazio, I think the chances are increasing. There have been rumors about Juventus. I don't trust it at all, even because after paying Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't think Juventus have the money for Milinkovic-Savic. Mourinho today said that he put a list of 5 players he wanted for Manchester United. Who knows if Milinkovic-Savic was in that list or not? But yeah, I think at the moment it's really Manchester United and Real Madrid who has the potential to buy Milinkovic-Savic. But we have to see even if the player is smart enough to say, okay, maybe I need another year at Lazio, and then maybe I can look for a bigger team. But yeah, honestly, I got the impression that Inzaghi was really confident that Milinkovic-Savic was going to stay to Lazio. Obviously, you cannot say, because if tomorrow Real Madrid comes with an incredible offer, 150 million euros, then you don't know what's going to happen. But I would say that there's a big chance that Milinkovic stay. And if Milinkovic stay, I think this team is better than last year. Obviously, it's not perfect. Let's be honest, we said it. There are a couple of spots that should be filled, but we don't think it's going to happen. But especially seeing the other Serie A team, I think, I'm curious to see Gazzetta where he's going to place Lazio 9th, 10th, 11th position. But I really think that this team is better than last year.
Yeah, I think, and keeping Milinkovic-Savic is a big part of that as well. Because I'd be worried at this point if he was to go that the club wouldn't really have time or willingness to replace him as well. But I think it is with him. It always has been, and it remains just simply down to the money. I mean, if a club was going to come in and offer the valuation that Lotito has put on his head of 120 million, then the club's going to accept it because that is their asking price. And then it's down to the player. And if it was an offer of a huge salary raise and the prospect of moving to one of those big clubs, then he would probably go. But it's just down to whether or not that kind of offer is likely to come in, and it just doesn't seem like it's going that way at this point. So yeah, I agree with what you say though. I do think the squad is stronger than this time last season. Yeah, you said it pretty much. If not perfect, but stronger. So
yeah, and then you have to see what happens. There can be more injuries this season, a little bit of bad luck. I don't think there can be more referee mistakes than last season, but you never know.
But the margins of this team improving and becoming a top 4 team do seem to be quite small. I mean, if you just ignore what's going on around the rest of the league, and I think it's simply a case of if tightening up that defence, conceding fewer goals, and on top of that, managing to overcome the mental problems that plagued the team with those big blackouts that happened against Salzburg and Inter, then if you manage to sort out those two problems, you're automatically winning a lot more points than we did last season. And Inzaghi's broken records in his two full seasons in charge in terms of his points tallies, and been competing with the Eriksen era, in terms of how many wins he's getting, goals scored, points gained, and all it needs now really is Champions League football. So I do think we're in a decent place to be able to achieve that.
Yes, I think you increase the depth of the squad, especially I think at the moment, especially if Milinkovic-Savic stays. I think Lazio has the best midfield in Serie A. Not talking only about the starters, but even about the subs you have. You have Murgia, you have Badelj, Berisha, and so on. They are a very good option that give Inzaghi a lot of chances of rotate players without losing quality. So that's really positive, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the midfield's going to be key to everything that happens this season, really, because it's, like you said before, if Ciro doesn't get us an adequate backup, they're going to be relied upon to be supplying a lot of goals, which obviously, particularly Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto did so well with last season, but they're going to need to do the same again. And then on the flip side of that, be asked upon, I mean, if the formation does change, it'll be interesting to see, but they'll be asked to help be the solution to the defensive holes as well. So yeah, I don't know about best in Serie A. I think that's a big statement. But definitely one of.
Well, I think one of was already last season, but you said it a little bit in this podcast. I presume you don't love too much the starting of the fixture of Lazio this year, right? You're not very happy.
Well, I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest. Because on the one hand, if you manage to catch Napoli and Juve cold, at least you're getting them before they've built up a head of steam. And it's a bit cliched to say, but the teams won't really be motoring at that stage of the season in the same way that they might be a couple of months later. So there is that side of things. Opening game at home to Napoli is huge. I think that it's going to be incredibly difficult. Don't get me wrong, but if we manage to get 3 or 4 points, or even 6 from those first 2 games, it would be a real launch pad to go on and make the season one to remember. So it does give us a big opportunity, but it's just that the worst case scenario of losing both of those games would really be such a setback to enter week 3 having still not picked up any points would not be the ideal start, to say the least. But if you look at the calendar as a whole, one thing that is promising is that the run-in's good, and that's almost the first thing I look at when a calendar is released. And if you look at our final, April and May, basically the only in inverted commas big team we're playing is Milan. And other than that, Spal, Sassuolo, Chievo, Sampdoria, Atalanta, Cagliari, Bologna, Torino. And there's some hard games in there, but that's the point of the season where you want to be hitting your form, is the final 2 months, and then that's when you can push on up. And if you compare that to this season, where we've had Inter on the last day, obviously, but some tricky games before that too, it's a big change. And I think having a good run of winnable games at the right times of the season is a really good thing. So that side of things I do like, but there's just lot's riding on being able to get at least one positive result from those first 2 games.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern is that Lulic and Leva won't be able to play against Napoli, so that's my biggest concern. I'm happy to facing Napoli, Juventus at the beginning, especially Napoli with a new manager. Ancelotti will be changing a lot compared to Sarri, so it can happen that the first day of the season Napoli won't play as well as in December, November eventually, but there are those 2 players missing. I'm happy that Badelj, I think, can replace Leva, and Durmisi can replace Lulic, but they still have to adapt to the team. So, and then you have to play against Juventus once, so let's hope that Cristiano Ronaldo is thinking about the Champions League already and maybe wants to rest a little bit. But as you were saying, it's very positive that April, May is going to be... It's never easy in Serie A, but for sure much better than this season, especially because teams like Atalanta and Torino probably at that stage would be already out of everything, or maybe fighting, already qualified for the Europa League. So it shouldn't be that difficult. So that could be really interesting. Again, it concerned me that after the derby there's against Fiorentina, so there could be a couple of tough matches. You have Udinese, Roma, Fiorentina, then you have Parma, then Inter. That's going to be the most difficult part of the season for Lazio. But you cannot judge the fixture till you play it, because you can play Juventus the first day of the league and maybe they have player out of form or injured, or you can play it in December, but you don't know that in December, maybe Cristiano Ronaldo and Dybala are injured, and so Juventus is struggling in front. You don't know it now in August or July. You will find out playing. So, but I think playing Napoli at the beginning and Juventus, it's good because you take away those matches and you can finish the season in an easier way.
Yeah, I think so too. And also don't forget, we did beat Juventus in Turin last season. I think because we've had such a bad run of results against them for so long before then, we're still so pessimistic about the prospect of ever playing them. But with the Super Cup and the win in Turin last season, we have kind of managed to tilt the balance in our favour in that fixture. And so I think we can go to Turin with a lot of confidence for that game based on our recent meetings. Napoli is a team we did so badly against last season, but like you say, new manager, new squad. Not that new a squad, but a few new players. And but the opening day can always have strange results. I remember think it was the season before last, Udinese beating Juventus on the first day of the season in Turin, I think it was, and or maybe. And then Juventus went on to absolutely destroy everybody in Italy for the rest of the season, basically, after that. So the first day can have these surprises. I'm not saying Lazio beating Napoli at home would be a huge surprise, but given how we did against them last season, we will go into that as the underdogs. And I think if we're going to meet them, it's not actually a bad time to meet them. I mean, the stadium should be full. There'll be a lot of excitement around this team. So, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that Ancelotti's going to struggle a little bit to adapt, to change things at Napoli. I don't think Napoli is going to be able to play like Sarri again. So we're going to see if he's going to be able to change things before the starting of the season, which looks really complicated. Still, it's going to be a difficult match, but you know, I'm confident, especially if nothing bad happens to Lazio player in August. No one gets injured before the season starting. Even though, to be honest, we have already someone injured like Strakosha, Berisha, and Marusic, which would be tough to replace against Napoli, especially considering that already Leva and Lulic are out.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the ideal start to have an injury list or unavailable list like that.
No. Some question. Addi asked what happened with Gabbiadini. Well, Gabbiadini, the manager of the agent of Gabbiadini, said he was staying in England, and that's what's happening. He hasn't been linked to any other team, so I don't think he's coming to Lazio anymore. Other question. Ibrahimi Abeti, do you think we will get another striker? No, Alistair, I don't think we're going to get it right. We think that Caicedo is going to be the replacement until we don't sell Caicedo. If we sell him, then yes, we're going to buy someone else, right?
Yeah, so please, if anyone knows anyone who works for a football club, please convince them to put in an offer for Felipe Caicedo, or maybe we can pull together some money in a crowdfunder somewhere to sign him for Lazio Lounge and take him off the books of the club. Yeah, I mean, it does look like he needs to go before they bring anyone else in. I mean, at least he is being linked with moves, but I mean, it's getting a bit ridiculous. He's being linked with clubs all over the world, and it just changes every single day. So I don't know how real any of this interest actually is.
Yeah. Sami, have Lazio scheduled in any more friendlies before the season? And anything between the September international break? Not during the September international break. Usually Lazio play friendlies with the local teams, but nothing big. Friendlies, well, Lazio is going to Germany in I think around 3 days or so. They're going to play against Arsenal and I think another couple of German teams. I'm not sure. I don't remember the schedule. I don't know, Alistair, if you can help me.
In Germany, well, yeah, Dortmund. Dortmund is the big one, obviously. I'm struggling to remember the other ones as well. I think there is a smaller team we're playing as well.
So the biggest one are going to be Arsenal and Dortmund. So bigger test. That's going to be interesting to test the players. So I think even this is a step forward, right, compared to the other season. Lazio were having very easy friendlies, and now things have changed, probably because Inzaghi feels that the team needs to be tested with the biggest team. So I like this idea, to be honest, starting easy and then increase the level.
Yeah, definitely, and some nice high-profile ones there as well. With Dortmund and Arsenal are two great teams to be able to test yourself against, and I think that looks even more important, more significant now that we've had this fixture release and we know we're going to have to be going straight into the season against the very top two teams in the league. So the fact that we're going to be able to go into those, at least on the back of playing some challenging games, might make a difference. Sorry, I've just checked this again because it was annoying me that I'd forgotten who we were playing in Germany. There's a three-way tournament between Lazio, Hanover, and Athletic Bilbao, and that's the day before the friendly against Dortmund. So I'm not entirely sure how the three-way tournament is going to work, what the format is, but yeah,
U-
that seems to be the schedule.
Usually it's 45 minutes matches.
Okay.
I think it's important because I don't think Milinkovic and Caceres will be able to play the 4th of August against Arsenal, so maybe Inzaghi was looking for more matches to make them play as well, because obviously Milinkovic is coming now, and as well as Badelj and Correa, they need time to find the form and start playing with the team. So more friendly match they play now, it's gonna help them to find the form. Ramiel Gandhi seems like we won't be selling or buying any new defender. Do you think our defenders from last year can improve? And if not, why didn't we buy any better ones? Well, Faris talked about improving the defense, not in players but how to defend, and we said it. Uh, if no one's, if Lazio doesn't sell anybody like Bastos, could be the only option now at the moment. I don't think they're not going to buy anybody. And Inzaghi and Faris are confident on Wallace. We're going to see what happens. Honestly, I'm not that confident.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we've kind of already talked about Wallace and Bastos earlier on, I suppose, but it's hard to imagine that we're going to see great improvements from them because we've been waiting a long time to see that. So, again, I think the best we can hope for is that the very best of those two defenders is a Serie A quality, good centre back. So, if they somehow manage to find a way of performing at a more consistent level, then we might be okay. But it does seem a bit strange to be going into the new season with only one defensive change, considering that was clearly and very obviously the biggest weakness of this team last season.
Patrick Bowman, as I understood it, Inzaghi changed his mind after analyzing Correa. Yes, he spoke with Tare and thought that Correa was a better option than Gomez. Let's not forget that Correa, I think he's only 23, so he's really young, younger than Felipe Anderson. He already played in Serie A. He had a couple of good seasons at Sevilla, so I think he's a talented player that really can improve at Lazio.
Yeah, I'm excited by this signing. Actually, I did a bit of reading up on him after the news came out, and like you said earlier on as well, he did play well as at Samp. He was playing in a 3-4-2-1 formation, so he is capable of knowledgeable of playing in that system. He's not just a winger; he's very versatile. Can play all across that kind of final third of the pitch. I think he'll be really useful, and obviously, I think what attracted the club to him is that he is young enough that he does have potential not only to get better but to increase his value as well. And yeah, he should be hungry as well to come back to Italy, make a good impression with a big team. And he played a lot of games. I think he played eight games in the Champions League for Sevilla last season. So he's not someone who's not used to the top level and big matches. Should be a great signing.
Yep. Before closing, Alistair, Lazio have signed 9 players for the Primavera this summer. Is this something that makes you wonder? Are you happy seeing Lazio looking already for the next big player, bringing it in the Primavera and then see him, performing, etc.? Or do you think Tare should be more focused on the first squad players?
Well, you say they've brought in 9 players to the Primavera, but also we've brought in a lot of players to the first team squad, so I don't think you can really criticise him because he's managing to do both simultaneously. Look, what it comes down to, I mean, obviously the first team has to be the priority, and there are big positions needing filled in this squad, but the Primavera, if you get it right, is it's going to be self-sufficient for the first team. And that Primavera team needed a lot changed to it because they obviously got relegated last season and was not really going in the right direction. So I think changes had to be made. Not surprised to see so many new players come in.
Okay, guys, let me know what you think about it, because it's 9 plus the Argentina striker that we announced last week that is still his transfer is not official, or at least the contract hasn't been deposited to the Lega Serie A. So Lazio bought 10 players for the Primavera next year. I hope this means they're going to go up after this year. Alistair, I think we can wrap it up here. Do you have a stat to close the show today?
No, I'm afraid not. There was one that Rami Alguindi actually sent to me, but he just missed the deadline of last week's show, so I need to find that again. It was very good, but I've completely forgotten what it was.
Okay, I'm going to reply to Adi in the moment. He's asking about the youngster Ibanez and Anderson. Ibanez is going to go with the Primavera. That's starting training tomorrow, Monday. Talk with some Argentinian journalists. They say he never played in the first squad of River Plate. He's very talented. He has a big physique, but you have to see how he matures. He has big potential. And Anderson is a defender that Lazio is buying from Bari. It looks like he could stay with Lazio, but the option is to give him on loan to Salernitana and make him play there this season and see how things go. Did you find the stat, Alistair?
I found it. So this was from Rami, sent it over, but it's from Opta. So Milinkovic-Savic is the youngest player to reach double figures of both goals and assists in the last 2 seasons in Serie A, with 16 goals and 10 assists.
Wow, that's great. So
need to keep him.
Absolutely. And you need to keep following Lazio Lounge. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, subscribe to iTunes, review our podcast if you like it, and obviously support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Thank you, everybody. We're going to talk again next Sunday. Bye. Bye, Alistair.
Love it.